with the computer camera because it allows you to see my shirt.
Oh, whoa, the t-shirts.
Normally you can't see it. I'm going to sit lower. No, I have to sit higher. How do I have to sit? How will you see it better? I have to sit back here. I have a cushion. Yeah. If you can't see the whole thing, then the microphone's in the way. Yeah, you can't see the whole thing. Let's go back. Is it hard to read the bottom? It should be lighter. Oh, you can see it? This is Bhagavad-Gita 9:30. Apichet Sudaracharo. Your favorite verse. Whatever I do, I'm forgiven. It sounds like Christianity, but no, you're forgiven once, not perpetually. And it has to be an accident. It's not a rationalized sin. It's an accident. And just because you're forgiven doesn't mean what you did won't send you to jail. That's also, to be noticed, All right, Krishna will forgive you. We see you as a sadhu, but, the police department may not. They have their laws. So, yeah, okay. So, Hare Krishna. So, I was going to begin speaking about Lord Balaram because his appearance day is coming soon, right? Hold on, it's too much light. But we had a chaotic morning, and I ran down here without my computer with all my notes. So on the way down, because I was late, I thought, today we are going to talk about whatever you want to talk about. So I will leave that up to you, all on Zoom or Facebook. I will chant Jai Radha Madhava, and while I'm chanting, you can think of what you want to talk about, which could either be one topic, or it could be questions, or many questions on one topic, but the topic has to be, this is the qualification, the topic has to be somewhat bewildering, like confusing, like, is it this or is it that? Totally relevant and interesting, okay? Otherwise, we take your question and we throw it away. Of course, knowing all of you, that generally whatever you ask fits in those three categories. Controversial is good because it makes us think more, right? Doesn't it? Controversy helps us think. Is it this or is it that? Okay, so you're all going to think about something that is bothering you. You read something, it's bothering you. You heard something, it's bothering you. You can't figure it out. It doesn't seem right. Or you heard two classes which were completely the opposite of one another, and it's bothering you, and you're going back and forth. Or you're seeing something, and you're reading in Shastra, and what you're reading in Shastra seems to be different from what you're seeing. You go, well, Shastra says this, but it seems like it's this. So, Sadhus in Progress. This is the sequel to the class we gave that you're all pure devotees. You're all pure devotees, but you're still, you're still progressing. Pure devotees can progress. Sadhus in Progress. Okay, we're going to back up a little so you can fully see it. And we will chant Jai Radha Madhava. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Balaba Giri Baradhari, Gopijana Balaba Giribharadhari Chishodhanandana Rajajana Ranjana Chishodhanandana Rajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balaba Girivardhari Gopijana Balaba Girivardhari Shodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Shodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai. Jai Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. So in order to read the chat and control things, I'm going to have to move closer. So the pleasure you're getting by seeing my t-shirt will now be minimized to some degree. And I'm going to do an experiment. It will only be temporary. I'm going to use a better camera. And then we will see if I freeze. And if I don't, then good. Okay. Better, right? Yes? As they say in Hawaii, mo bella. And now we will come closer. Now we're even more intimate. Okay. So I also have another idea for classes, which is to read Shivaram Swami's book, in which he goes through the whole philosophy of Krishna consciousness in detail. And it's an amazing book. Shuddha Chintamani. Shuddha, what's the name of it? Shuddha something. Shuddha something Chintamani. It's an amazing book. So that's also a possibility. The problem with that, I think if we went through it having me teach it, it could take 3 years to get through it. Because it would probably, if you didn't talk and you just read 3 days a week for like an hour and a half, that could take 6 months, I would think. But actually talk about it. So anyway, Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani. Yeah. It's an amazing book. It asks some controversial questions, but it's really good to understand things that are difficult to understand. And some things in Prabhupada's books, they're explained, but there's no detail. So it kind of leaves you open to wonder, to fill in the details. And so a lot of the details are filled in, especially about understanding the higher stages of life. I think higher stages of bhakti, I think that book goes from faith to prema. It explains the whole process and everything in between. So when you get into the higher stages, it can be confusing unless someone explains it more. Because these stages we have no experience of, and then they're categorized. There are many categories of ecstasy and sub-ecstasies, and different kinds of ecstasies and different kinds of emotions, which we don't see here in this world. So it can be confusing. Then you might be thinking, well, it's not relevant to me. I'm still trying to get out of bed in the morning. That's also true. But this is our philosophy. We should understand it. And sometimes understanding things which are higher, beyond your grasp, actually get you out of bed. Because you realize there's something way higher than I'm experiencing that if I do this process, I'll be able to get there. So it can be inspiration. Okay. So I'm going to go to chat and see what. Um, um, okay. So we have one question so far. How to pull out the weeds from the heart. I was having a conversation yesterday about the importance of being exemplary, especially as you become an older devotee, which you will become. You have no control of that. You will become an older devotee. Did you know that? You may not become an advanced devotee, but you will become an older devotee. And when you become an older devotee, because your hair starts turning gray, people look at your gray hair and think, oh, he's advanced, she's advanced, she has gray hair, she must be a devotee a long time. So you can't really avoid people expecting you to act properly, especially as you get older in Christian consciousness. So we were talking about that. And we were looking at the different qualities of a devotee. And one quality that seems to be extremely difficult to manifest, as we all know, is humility. Or maybe we could put it another way. Not giving into false ego. And how important that is, how essential that is, how fundamental that is to the whole process of bhakti, and how also it's symptomatic of advancement. And I think it's really important to understand the symptoms, because then you could know when the symptoms are not manifesting, right? Like if you read in a book, well, when I was a kid, we read in our health class that if you get a sore and it doesn't heal, could be a sign of cancer. Did you ever read that when you were a kid in school? Did they teach you that? Actually, I had many things on my face from exposure to sun, and occasionally it scabs up, and then I knock the scab off, and then it scabs up again. It never heals. Then I go to the skin doctor, and often they have to cut it out. Like if you see my bindi right there, you see my bindi? Well, that was skin cancer. It seems to be coming back. They cut it out, and it seems to be bindizing itself. So you know, it's like, oh, this sore is not healing. I've had it for 3 months and it scabs, and then I pick the scab and it scabs, and I pick the scab and that could be a sign of cancer. So it's also good to be aware of signs. Like I've been a devotee for such and such a period of time, and still I am like this. So then you go back and you think, okay, if after being a devotee for so long, I'm still like this, whatever like this is for you, then there's two questions to ask yourself. Is it that my application of the process needs some tweaking, needs some investigation? Or is it that this is normal? Like for a conditioned soul, they will go through this, because you have to distinguish. And generally, it's a combination of both. If it's normal and you're doing everything you can to advance, then there's nothing to worry about it. There's nothing to worry about, right? And so I show the doctor, you see this big spot on my head? He goes, yeah. And I go, what is that? And he says, old age. I've had my doctor say that before. I asked him, why do I have this or feel like this? He goes, old age, which is kind of a nice way and a funny way of saying, don't worry about it. It's just normal. It's what happens when you get old. So there is that aspect. You're having a problem. Don't worry about it. It's why do I have it? conditioned soul. That's why there's no other explanation. Am I doing anything wrong? Not necessarily. It's just conditioned soul. That's, that's what it means to be a conditioned soul. Then there are problems which you look at and say, no, obviously it's being a conditioned soul, but the problem is excessive. It's like I become completely intolerant, or I become very, very angry, or I'm extremely proud, or I just can't take it when people in any way recommend that I do something. My ego just shoots up. Who are you to tell me, So when I see things which I'm exhibiting traits and qualities which are really more reminiscent of people in the mode of ignorance who are not spiritual than devotees, then, okay, maybe it is cancer. Maybe I need to go to the doctor. So then you go back and say, okay, what's going on in my spiritual life that after 30 years, I still think like this? I'm still like so reluctant to accept something or do something or detach from something. Like, what's going on? And a lot of times it's quite easy to tell because you just ask yourself a few questions. When was the last time I read Srimad Bhagavatam? Let me get my calendar out. Okay. 2020. Oh yeah, there it was, January 4th, 2020. Okay, we hit one problem. You're not hearing enough. You're not studying Prabhupada's books. When was the last time I chanted good rounds? I'm going to the calendar. I think it was like July 2018. Okay, we have a problem. For the last 3 years, my rounds have basically been offensive. Okay, I should have certain problems if that's what's going on. Do I have any close friends that I talk to that I reveal to? No. Okay, another problem. So you go down the list and you start seeing, is this problem connected with anything I'm doing wrong or not doing right or not doing enough of or doing too much of? I would say, and another thing also, this is a phenomena of modern ISKCON, which did not exist in the old days. In the old days in ISKCON, of course, we were all living in the temple, so you can't compare. It's not apples to apples. But your average Prabhu, and I use the word Prabhu as male and female in this sense, your average Prabhu knew lots and 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 lots of shlokas. That was just like normal. Like when I mean lots, like, of course, I can't speak for the women. I can only speak for the men. But your average brahmachari to be like, just like, to show his face in the crowd, at least 100 shlokas, like, come on, if you don't know 100, it's like you're too embarrassed to like show up. That was just like normal, and nowadays, what's normal? You know that verse? I've heard it before. What about this verse? Sarva something. Yeah, that's kind of what happens now. And the only people that really learn verses, aside from the dedicated shloka wallahs, are your Bhakti Shastri students who have to learn it. Oh, it's so hard. I have to learn all these verses. I recorded those verses the other day. I'm like, why do you have to learn these verses? You should already know them. If this was 1970, you wouldn't have to study any of those verses. You would have heard them so many times in class. You would know them all. It's like, you have to learn this verse. Oh my God. And you're looking at the verse, going, what chapter is that in? Where's that verse? You don't know. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because there's certain activities like learning verses that are very purifying. Deity worship, having association of devotees, especially more advanced ones who like don't have the problems you have, things like that. Little things you may not be doing that can make a huge difference. Am I in contact? Do I ever get association of more senior devotees? Do we have discussions, even on Zoom, WhatsApp, whatever? Do I have that opportunity? Like people that I can talk to, discuss, associate, be with? am I learning any verses? Am I actually studying Prabhupada's books? At least an hour, like for us as brahmacharis back in the day, an hour was like starvation diet. You know, an hour on Prabhupada's books. I was like, oh my God, what's wrong with you, Prabhu? How can you go out in Sankirtan? You only read an hour. Today it's like, oh, I read a half hour. That's really good, right? No, that's appetizer. And on our days off, we read at least 5 hours. You get through like a half a chapter or a whole chapter of Bhagavatam, including the purports. So some things you may have to try, and it may be a service, like Annapurna, you're an artist. So you think, okay, I want to do a picture of Krishna. And so you do it. And after you do the picture, you're like, oh my God, this was like amazing meditation. I'm so inspired. I love doing this. And you realize here is a link for you, right? They're like, this makes a difference. I'm not saying that's true necessarily. It could be. You go, as Prabhupada said, painting is deity worship. So you're decorating Krishna. You're manifesting Krishna. You know, you're painting a Leela. What Leela is this? And you're meditating on the Leela. What did the coward boys look like? You know, what did Krishna look like? How can I paint him beautiful? So on, like that, right? So you may have a realization that this particular seva is like life-saving for me. This makes the difference. This is day and night. Or it could be, doesn't have to be seva, like I say, sadhana. It could be learning shlokas, chanting Brahma. A lot of us used to chant the Brahma Samhita. Raise your hand if you have the Brahma Samhita memorized. Okay. Only 1.5. Oh, well, I'll be vulnerable. I don't have it memorized. I have most of it memorized because I'm the one who's supposed to know it because I chanted it. And that recording became popular. So I think I should know it. When I get to the last verses, I'm a little rusty. And I always have to read them when I chant to make sure I get them in order. So, but many devotees memorize Brahma Samhita, many of the brahmacharis when they're young, you know, like that. The prayers of the Goswamis, like the certain verses of Bhagavatam. Like, so for them, that was like, yeah, hey, Prabhu, let's go chant some shlokas. Yeah. You know, tough brahmacharis, sit down, you know. Pavitra, pavitra, you know, the rough, tough brahmacharis. You know, but that was like their Shakti, you know, the mantra, the Vedic mantras, you know. They'd do that and be like, okay, let's go out and distribute books. Yeah. Yeah, let's do it. You know, so they found certain activities that just like, wow, this is like, I need this, right? So when you're looking at your anartas, you always, you can't, not always, but you can look back and say, if I were doing A, B, and C, would this anartha be a problem? And in many cases, it wouldn't be. You know, like, why am I attracted to this? Because I'm not attracted to that. Because I'm not filling myself with this. Therefore, I'm trying to fulfill it with that. So that's one answer. It's not specific. That's for you to contemplate, you know, what you could be doing better. Of course, as you know, I have to say japa could be really bad, which is a major, bad japa is a major cause of anartha. So I'm saying you want to look at fundamental sadhana practices and how you're doing. And I mean, I sometimes I talk to devotees and they say certain things, and I immediately know by what they said, they're not reading Prabhupada's books and their rounds are horrible. I can just know that because they wouldn't have said that if they were chanting better rounds. Or they're saying, I can't do this and this is too hard. You know, we have to be real about this. And I'm like, you know, this, and it's going like 108 excuses why you can't just do like ABC Krishna consciousness. And it's like, okay. You can't chant good rounds and read Prabhupada's books and think that way. It's impossible. It's just like, it's against the spiritual laws of the universe. So sometimes you can see that in others, and sometimes you may see that in yourself. Like why am I thinking this way? Would a person who's actually chanting well, studying Prabhupada's books think this way? And you're like, no, right? So it's not that we want to find fault with people, but it just shows there's some gaps there that if they were filled, you would be thinking differently. At least it's something to think about. Then the other answer that I was giving, which is important as well, is there are anarthas that you can't just pull out. Today, I decided, I'm announcing to the world that today I decided is the day I'm going to become Trinada Pisunichena. And I set it on my calendar. I'm going to do it right after class right after we start the japa at 11:05. I'm going to do it. It doesn't work that way. Today at 11:05, my false ego will be killed. I have a false ego killing ceremony. I have a false ego killing mantra. It's all set up in my house. I'm going to go and do it. It's like, that's our modern materialistic mentality. You know, is there like an easy way to do this? You know, like a software. You know, is there an app that gets rid of your false ego? Yeah, I'll pay any price for it. You know, whatever, as long as it's not more than $2.99. Yeah. $3.99 for that app to kill. That's so expensive. I'm not going to pay that much. You know, that's the mentality, isn't it? Right. So I think you understand what I'm saying, that in these kinds of questions, how do I? Sometimes the answer is continue doing your sadhana, just do it better, or continue doing your sadhana the way you're doing, and it will go away in course of time. So sometimes that's the answer for certain anarthas. It's usually a combination of both those answers, but I don't want you to become discouraged when you see there's an anartha there that you can't do the fire yajna to get rid of it, or you can't, you know, today I'm going to chant good rounds and then all my anarthas will be gone. Not exactly. Not that easy, Prabhu. You know, you got to pay a little more than one day of good japa. But it's that consistent good japa, and gradually, you become better. You become more Krishna conscious. Your qualities become better. You start healing in certain ways. So, utsaha nishchaya dharya tat karma pravartana. Patience is one of the qualities. So I'm doing it and I don't see results. I lose my patience. When's it going to happen? What can I do? What else can I do? Do what you're doing. Do it better. Better rounds, better reading, better everything. Just do it better and then be patient and it'll go away. So you have that. And then, as we were saying before, you have this idea of pulling the weeds. What are the weeds? And like, can I pull them? Is there a way I can actually pull them? Because there are some weeds that you can pull. Maybe not at the root immediately, but the idea is, you know, this question always comes up, or this concept comes up. Won't I just become pure by executing the process? So, yeah, you will. When you become pure, you will become pure. That's what bhakti will do. But then you have the chapter cleaning of the Gundicha temple, and it talks about pulling the weeds. So why do I have to pull the weeds if the process will make me pure? So sometimes it's just the process, don't worry about it. And sometimes it's the process and worry about it. Worry about the weeds because you have to work on them. And you have to be able to distinguish the difference. Sometimes it's a combination of both. Sometimes it's one, like with false ego, you can't just pull it out, you know. But as I've said before, at least if you have a big false ego, at least don't act on it. If you're not humble, at least act humbly. I mean, you know, be nice, be respectful. Well, I can't, Prabhu, because you have to be real and I'm not humble. So why should I respect you? That would be duplicitous. No, it's not like that. You gotta be real, Prabhu, and I'm not humble. so too bad for you. You're not going to like me. No, it can't be that way. It's like, okay, I am not humble. And I know by becoming Krishna conscious, I will be humble, but there are actions which we can define as humble actions, such as respecting another devotee, serving the devotees, and so on. So I think it's more than obvious that in the process of becoming humble, we don't avoid those activities in the name of, I'm not humble. What do you expect? Prabhu, you didn't respect that devotee. I know. My Guru Maharaj said, I have to be patient. In time, I'll become humble. And so the common sense response is, well, what are you going to do before you become humble? And the answer is, I'm going to act as if I were humble, even though I'm not. I'm not going to act on my pride. And if I act on my pride, I'll never become humble. That's the problem. I was thinking today, something kind of funny, I'll tell you, but it's about this point. Let's say I go to Vrindavan and I look at the deities and I look, the deities look really funny. Who dressed them? And then I find out who dressed them. I go, what is wrong with that pujari? The deities look really bad. So I made 4 offenses at once. I offended a devotee, and if you offend a devotee, you offend the holy name. I offended the deities, and I made Dham aparad also, So I did 4 in 1, right? So be careful, ladies and gentlemen. You could make 4 offenses with 1 statement. If you go to Vrindavan for the first 3 days, just get some masking tape, put it on your lips. So you want to make no one will hear you. Of course, you can make it in your mind, but when it comes out of your mouth, it's much worse. Yeah. And it's kind of not fun to make it in your mind if you can't tell everybody, because the whole point of making an offense is to put the person down. And if you can't tell anybody, you don't get to put him down, right? Because other people have to hear how bad he is to give you the satisfaction of putting him down. So that's why Jiva Goswami says, don't say it if you think it. But in any case, so now I tell you, I'm not humble. And that's why I offend devotees, right? And when I become Krishna conscious, I'll stop offending. And okay, let's put this in logical perspective. Prabhu, if you keep offending devotees, you'll never become Krishna conscious. No, it says right there, when you become Krishna conscious, you develop all good qualities. I know it says that, but you'll never be Krishna conscious if you offend. No, but it says right there, when you become Krishna conscious, you'll stop offending devotees. I know. Prabhu, listen to what I'm saying. If you offend devotees, you'll never be Krishna conscious. Yeah. So, and you're all sitting there thinking, that's common sense. Yeah. It's so common. It's such common sense that the Hare Krishna devotees who like to be philosophical get into philosophical debates. How, you're just, it's right there in the Shastra. You just chant Hare Krishna and all good qualities are developed, right? I wish it were that easy, right? Just chant Hare Krishna. Don't offend the devotees. Don't offend the holy name. Get up early. Read Prabhupada. Yeah, do all those things. And then, yeah, it will come. So while you're doing all the positive things, right, you have to avoid doing the negative things so the positive things will work. Because if you do the negative things, the positive things won't work and you'll never become Krishna conscious. So that verse, all good qualities develop when one becomes Krishna conscious, will never happen to you because you never became Krishna conscious to see the good qualities. You're just acting on your lower qualities. So that's the other side of the equation. When you see an anartha, anartha, artha means beneficial, anartha means which is not beneficial. When you see something which is not beneficial, you have to do something about it. And you might say, but I have this huge false ego. I want everyone to think I'm the best thing that walking, on the universe, walking on the planet. I just want everyone to think, you're so amazing. I just want people to line up and tell me how amazing I am. And if they don't know if I can, face another day. So that's my ego. It's that big. Okay. So now what do? Well, you can't kill yourself You can't run away from your ego. You can't pretend it doesn't exist. The solution is, and Prabhupada gave this solution to many, many problems. The solution is act as if you didn't have that big false ego. And you think, okay, if I didn't have that big false ego, what would it look like? Say, well, I wouldn't really be trying I wouldn't be doing my service in a way that I'm hoping I'm going to get praised for it. I might be positioning myself in such a way that all the videos that are going viral on Facebook, I'm in them. I just like, oh, there's another viral video. Hi. I have to get, I wouldn't be doing that kind of stuff. I'm exaggerating here, but you know what I mean. I kind of reveal what goes on in our crazy minds. I think it's funny to talk about it, but you understand what I'm saying. So it's like, if I am angry, I'm very upset about something. Do I have to manifest that anger, or can I control it and still respect you, even though I'm very upset about what you did? Okay, it's easier just to yell at you. It doesn't take any sense control. It's much more difficult to be respectful to you after you did something that I find personally upsetting, even disgusting, disturbing. Can you do that? Yes. Is it difficult? Yes. It takes practice. But that's how you're going to get to the point where when you become pure, all the good qualities develop, because by acting properly, you'll become purified. And then someday you'll never become angry, unless you meet a Mayavadi. Other than that, you should be pretty good. Or meet someone who's upsetting a devotee. But you won't be angry when you shouldn't be, because you've practiced acting. So I may have an anartha, right? And I know this anartha could destroy me. So what do? I don't give into the actions of the anartha, even though the anartha is there. I don't give into the action. Like, here's the anartha. The logical sequence, Dayato Visham Punsam, if I have this anartha, the logical sequence is I'm going to act a certain way. So, and we're saying these are the kind of anarthas you can't just decide to do some yajna and they go away forever. And that's it. It's gone, in 30 minutes. It's deeply rooted conditioning, which is going to go away gradually. So that's how we deal with it. Because the question was, how do you get rid of them? A lot of them you can't. They're just going to be lessened over time. And so instead of getting rid of them right away, which you can't do, you get rid of them by not giving into them, but they're still there. So your mind's saying, do this, do this, do this. And you'll say, no, I'm not going to do that. That wouldn't be good for me. Your mind is saying, look at that devotee. They're so this or that. And you just say, shut up. And you go up to that devotee and say, Hare Krishna Prabhu, so nice to see you. Thank you for coming. You could just act the way you're supposed to act. And so you deflect the anartha. Otherwise, you'll sit there and think, oh, miserable me. Look at all my anarthas. Have you ever thought like that? You ever gone in your room and just cried, oh, miserable me. I've got more anarthas than any other devotee. And they're all bigger than the other devotees. How do you know, Prabhu? I just know. But, well, do you really know? Yeah, I really know. It's like, you can't imagine how bad I am. All right. However bad you are, believe me, you're not going to get any first place prize for being worse than others. So that's the process. So the idea is you have a pebble in your shoe, but you're not going to stop walking. It's just a little uncomfortable, but you can't get the pebble out. It's just like it's stuck in your shoe, or the pebble's stuck in your foot for an hour, like a piece of glass. It's uncomfortable, but you don't stop walking, because if you stop walking, then you can't purify yourself. So if you stop the process, you can't purify yourself. So the mistake for a lot of us is, when the anarthas are there, we think anartha means this is going to have a negative effect on my bhakti. It doesn't mean that. It only means that when that's your equation. It just means it's an obstacle. It's a botheration. It's something that I have to deal with. It doesn't mean it's going to stop my bhakti. That's a mistake if you think like that, right? In fact, I am going to write that down because I want to make a video on that. What do you think? Good video? You agree? It's an important point, right? An obstacle doesn't have to stop my bhakti. It's just discomfort, basically, more than anything. Isn't it? I wish I didn't have it. You ever feel that way? I wish I didn't have this desire. I wish I didn't feel this way. It would be so much easier, but you do. So now what are you going to do? You're not going to kill yourself. You're not going to go into your room and cry. You're just going to figure out, well, you might go in your room and cry, but don't kill yourself. I can't stop you from going in your room and crying. I probably stop you from killing yourself. So, but after you go in your room and cry, you realize, okay, this is not the real solution. The real solution is, okay, how am I going to deal with it so that I don't give into it? So like, okay, it's there, it's in my mind. Beep, 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 beep. The mind's going, pulling you. How am I going to deal with it? How will I ignore it? Engage myself in a different way? Study Prabhupada's books in a certain way that empowers me not to give into it. In some way, I'm going to act in a way that counteracts that tendency. And here's the thing, if you think about it, there's always ways to counteract the tendency, isn't it? I'll give you an example. Well, you're mostly women here, so it's not a good example. Maybe it's okay. I have to think. I have a man example. And there's more women than men. But a lot of the problem with anartha or desire is that it's bred according to a certain conception, a certain belief, the stories we tell, the way we see the world. And it's because we're not seeing it shastrically. So if I see something in a certain way, it produces a certain response, which then causes me to act a certain way. So like Prabhupada, we've talked a lot about this, like envy, right? So what's the response to envy? I want to pull you down. I want to tell people what's wrong with you. I'm upset when I see your success. I see you on Facebook, 4 billion followers, and I have like 3 followers and I just lost one yesterday. And I look at that, I'm like, I hate you. I hate you. Why don't you just disappear? It makes you feel like a failure, right? So have you ever felt that way before? Whether it's Facebook followers or just someone who's got money or talent or intelligence, right? You ever seen that? Like you're trying to, do a painting, and then there's like 4-year-old girl does a painting like 10,000 times better than you could ever do in the next 10,000 lives. And you just throw your paintbrushes away. You ever feel like that? Yeah? Like, what's the use? That little 5-year-old Chinese kid playing piano, and you're like, okay, I'm putting my piano up for sale. It's like, why do it? So, so that's a normal human condition tendency. I don't like you. Why don't you like me? Because you're so beautiful. You don't like me because I'm beautiful. Yeah. Welcome to the material world. Ladies, you all want to be beautiful, but you know what the problem is? If you're really beautiful, there's going to be a lot of women who are not beautiful and they're going to hate you. Yes or yes. That's the material world, isn't it? So we don't like people who are good at what we want to be good at. I mean, better than us, better than we'll ever be. I mean, not always, but that tendency. So that's an anartha. So and that anartha is a result of my conditioning. And I can't just do the fire yajna and pull it out just like that. Or I can go to kirtan and forget about it. But when the kirtan stops, it all seems to start coming up again. You notice that? In the middle of the kirtan, it's like, I love everybody. Everything's wonderful. Forgive everybody. And then the kirtan starts and 10 minutes later, I hate you. All right, you're beautiful. Isn't it? You ever have that experience? Like I always say, the Krishna conscious movement, it just shouldn't stop kirtan because all the problems start when the kirtan stops and all the problems stop when the kirtan starts. So Lord Chaitanya was right. Of course he was right. He's got Kirtaniya said to always chant Hare Krishna. Yeah. And another benefit of always chanting Hare Krishna, there'll be no time for meetings. And it's in the meetings that we always fight. So yeah, that's a good solution. Yeah. My new theory on management. What's your theory? 24/7 kirtan. How will we organize anything? Don't worry. There won't be much to organize because everyone will be chanting Hare Krishna. What's there to organize? Buy a few drums when they break. That's about it. So, okay. I don't like you because you're beautiful. So now what do? I go up to you. And say, you're looking so beautiful today. So nice to see you, right? Totally like the last thing you would ever say to someone you're envious of, right? Why do you say it? Because the principle is you counteract the anartha, you counteract the effect of the anartha by acting against it, by acting in the opposite way. That's the idea. So to the question, how do we get rid of anarthas? Well, there's some that aren't going to go away until you get to bhava. It's just like, that's just a reality. Like this anartha is going to be sticking around till I'm on the stage of bhava, and probably I won't be on the stage of bhava this week, right? So it's going to be a while, right? Maybe not this year, maybe not this decade, maybe not this lifetime. So what do I do in the meantime? Do I give into it? I hope not. So that's when you say, how do I get rid of anarthas? Then the answer is, you don't right away. You often don't right away, but you just don't act on it. Does that make sense? And so now there's something else. You don't have to lament about your anarthas. And the reason is you don't have to lament is because you don't have to act on them. Isn't that good news? So none of you have to go. None of you, I'm writing this down because I want to talk about it in the video. So none of you have to go home in your room, close the door, and cry about your anarthas because it doesn't matter. Because you don't have to act on them. That's good news, isn't it? Unless you're saying, oh, that's easier said than done, Prabhu. You make it sound so easy. And as I always say, that's because it is. And I would reply to you, and you make it sound so difficult. So, better it sounds easy than difficult. So, I think you can make anything sound easy. You can make anything sound difficult. So if you have a choice, if I were you, I would take the easy path, wouldn't you? Rather than the difficult one. What do you think, right? Yeah. Okay, so we established that some anarthas are there due to conditioning. Some anarthas are there just due to slack sadhana or offenses, which we could immediately remedy. So you have immediate remedies and then long-range remedies. But the good news is, even if you have an anartha, nothing to lament because it doesn't have to have negative effect on you because you don't have to act on it, believe it or not. All right. So you may want to write that down somewhere. You don't have to act on your anartha. Did you know that? Did anyone ever tell you that? I must have told you this before, didn't I? I think the problem is some of you are like, I don't believe that. Okay. If you don't believe it, all I can say is try it, see if it works. Today, you're going to try it, right? Pick your number one anartha. Prabhu, I have so many number ones. That's going to take me all day just to decide. All right. Well, anyway, once you decide, then put this into practice. Try it. Okay. This is my number one anartha, right? I am like this. How should I act? What would be the proper action of one who didn't have this anartha? How would one who didn't have this anartha act? I think, well, they would be like this. Okay. So you be like that in action. Okay. Can you do that? You be like that in action and see what happens. What do you think? Good or good? Está bien o está bien? Très bien ou très bien? Pravda ili pravda? That's about it for me. Oh, TK or TK? TK or TK? Bahut acha or bahut acha. Yeah. So that's the idea. Okay. Did that answer your question, Annapurna? Or you have some more to that question I didn't answer? It's good. Okay. All right. So as a result of this question and answer, none of you are any longer authorized to lament about your anarthas. You're no longer authorized to lament. You can't, because now you know the solution. And now you know that many of these anarthas are natural. And now you also know that some of them are existing, even the natural ones, maybe more intensely because of something I could be doing that I'm not doing, or something I'm doing that I should stop doing. So you can take both angles of vision. How should I act, and what can I do to prevent it? And then by doing that, then gradually, you will advance in devotional service and you will overcome that anartha. And that action that you're doing, being respectful, being nice, serving, like that will become normal. And the anartha will die a natural death. And then on that day, you will be happy. That might be the first day in your life you're actually happy. The day that all your anarthas die will be the happiest day of your life. Now, the problem is we love anarthas. We nurture them. We feed them. We just like to hang out with them. And the consequence of that is misery. Yes or yes? Isn't that the irony of it all? When you actually, giving up anarthas is difficult, but when you give them up, that's when you become happy. Isn't it? The happiness paradox. Isn't it a paradox? Have you ever thought how hard it is to be happy? Like how much work it takes to be happy? Have you ever noticed that? And like nobody notices it, You have to you have to okay, you have to go to the airport, fly to this place, bring your golf clubs, your surfboard, your skis, or your snowboard, or whatever you're doing there. And then, plane rides are like, it's like you're just like in a little pipe with a bunch of people up in the air. It's not like fun. Maybe the first time it's fun if you're like 5 years old or something. First time my daughter went on a flight, she said, middle of flight, she says, okay, can we get out now? Because it was like too long for her, So then, then you check through, and immigration looks at you like you're some, terrorist, and like, go aside, let's see what's in your bags, what's this, what's that, what's this, messes up your whole suitcase, and then they just give it back to you. Okay, you're okay. And you're like, you messed up my suitcase. And just put it back yourself. And then you go to a hotel and you didn't get the room you wanted. And then the guy next door plays his TV at 3 a.m. And like, finally you get to go out and ski the next day and as well. And then you break your leg. And so it's not easy to be happy, right? It's a lot of work. Of course, we're painting the worst case scenario, but the worst case scenarios are often common. Just give up your anarthas, immediate happiness as a consequence. So, all the energy it takes to go skiing, put that into getting rid of anarthas. It has better payoff, I think, longer lasting results. Yeah. What do you think? Okay. it looks like we have comments or questions or challenges. Challenge me. You said this, but I don't, all right. I have to learn those verses for Bhakti Shastra, and I have a hard time doing it. I remember them tomorrow. Well, Jyotirmahi, I have an official announcement we made the other day. I recorded all the verses for Bhagavad-Gita, and I sent them to Guru Nishta. So all of you write Guru Nishta and say, open your email, Guru Nishta. I send it to her because she's doing Bhakti Shastra, and then I said, put it on Facebook so everybody can get it. So if she doesn't do it today, just let me know, and I'll give it to Radha Priya, and she'll do it. So I recorded all the Bhakti Shastri Bhagavad Gita verses for all of you to learn. If you don't already know those verses, you are an official loser by my standards, but you can reclaim your status as a winner by learning them. And I will do the other Bhakti Shastri verses also, because I have a studio. It's just like bing, 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 and then I can do it. And I like chanting Sanskrit. I have some ability to pronounce Sanskrit, maybe like 90+% perfect. For those who don't know Sanskrit, it sounds 100%. Those who know Sanskrit are like, that word, not exactly, but close. Okay, so Christy said, we don't have this culture at all nowadays. What culture was I talking about, Christy? Can you tell me? Culture of what?
Should I tell you via microphone?
Yeah.
Guru Maharaj, you were speaking about the culture of memorizing verses and
the culture of memorizing
all
verses.
of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm insulting you all to inspire you to learn verses. Just a bunch of losers, you guys. There's just a bunch of losers. You're like, look at Krishna's spoken so many beautiful verses and you don't even know them. Oh my God. Like, what kind of devotee are you? You're like, you call yourself a devotee? You don't even know Bhagavad-Gita verses? What kind of devotee are you? Okay. I'll stop there before I make any more offenses. And Krishna takes away my memory after offending you. Okay. All right, we're just having fun, but I hope your blood's boiling now that I said that. Okay. How does the false ego manifest? The false ego manifests by claiming things to be ours, which are Krishna's. I gave a talk on it once, and I said, it's like we carry a stamp, and we have two possible stamps. And one stamp says, this is Krishna's. And one stamp says, this is mine. So real ego is when you see something and you stamp it, this is Krishna's. And false ego is you stamp it, this is mine. And that's basically what we're doing. So before you're a devotee, pretty much you're stamping everything, this is mine, or I want it to be mine, or I'd like it to have it someday, isn't it? Wow, look at that house. Stamped it. Look at that car. Stamped it. Look at that beautiful guy, that beautiful girl. Stamped them. Look at that, whatever. Stamped it. This is mine. Have you ever done that before? That was basically our life before we became devotees, wasn't it? Just stamping it. This is mine, potentially mine. I'd like to have it. How do I get it? Where do I get the money to get it? And from some circles, how do I steal it? Right? So, and then you become a devotee, and as Prabhupada said, you look at a flower and you think, wow, that would be such a nice flower to offer to Krishna. This is Krishna's. Then you bring out the other stamp. This is Krishna's. Right? Look at that house. That would make a beautiful temple. This is Krishna's. Look at that woman. She's so beautiful. If she distributed books, every guy in the universe would take a book from her. She's Krishna's, like that. You stamp it that way. So now look at your body. This is mine. This is Krishna's. Which stamp do you put on your body? It's the same thing. So false ego is just, it's a false identification. This is mine. So, it's easy to understand things. This is not, my neighbor's house is not mine. I can understand that. What about your body? Can you understand this is not yours? That's harder, right? Isn't it? So when you put the stamp on this is Krishna's, then what happens? Well, now everything you think is that, does Krishna want me to do this? Would Krishna be pleased if I do this? That's how you think. And if it's mine, who has to ask Krishna? It's just what I want to do is what I do. What I don't want to do, I don't do. What's the big thing? Don't get mental. But when you're a devotee, you get a little mental. Does Krishna want me to do this? Because it's not my body anymore, right? Like I give you my car so you can, and you're working for me. So you can't just drive it off to wherever you want to go. You use it in service, right? And your friends say, that's a nice car. Why don't we go to the beach with a car? And you go, I can't. It's Mahatma Prabhu's car. He gave it to me for his service. I can't just go to the beach with it. Right? That's not what the car is for. It's not my car. So your body's a car. And what do you use your car for? So, ladies and gentlemen, which stamp do you carry with you? And the answer is both. Now, if you can throw away the this is mine stamp, then you're doing good. If you throw away this is Krishna's stamp, then all I can say is I feel sorry for you. This is Krishna's. And that's what every brahmachari needs, a little stamp when he sees a beautiful woman. This is Krishna's. Otherwise, he's going to think, how do I get her? Isn't it? Well, here, the guys are like, they don't say anything. The guys are like, they can't say anything because then they'd be admitting they're guilty. So they just stand there. You just revealed my mind to the world. How dare you? You can't do that. Yeah, that's why they don't say anything. Silence means yes, right? So Srujan says how to understand that just by saying Krishna once, we can see Krishna. Yeah. To say Krishna once purely, you have to say Krishna impurely millions of times. But when you come to that point where you say Krishna once in love, pure love, yeah, then everything's good. Just takes a bit of time. But you could have done that in your last life. So now in this life, it happens very soon. You could be that 5-year-old virtuoso piano player. So at 5, you could be exhibiting symptoms of Baba because you did it in your last life. But I was telling the devotees the other day, we went on a walk and I said, Prabhupada said you can get prema from chanting. So I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe it's the next mantra, I'll get prema. Well, wasn't that one? Maybe it's the next one. No, I missed that one. Maybe the next one. Well, maybe tomorrow. Maybe next week. Like when is that mantra I'm going to chant purely where something happens? It's an interesting way of thinking because we're chanting, and our perfection of chanting is Shuddhana. It's like, when will that day be mine? When there's ecstasy, when I chant. So I'm anticipating. I have to chant more purely because I get closer to that pure name. And when I chant that pure name, then there's ecstasy. So can it happen immediately? Yeah, it can. But you look at the story of Jamil, it didn't happen immediately. He just got free from sin. That happens for everybody. But Baba, that takes a while. So first he had to get free from sin. Now he's set up, he's on the right path. Now he can begin his practice and then come to the stage of Baba. For some people who are very evolved, they can come to the stage of Baba very quickly. There's no set time frame for coming from Shraddha to Baba. It could happen in a week, it could happen in 100 lifetimes. So a lot of it depends on our conditioning and a lot of it depends on our practice now. It's usually a combination of both, right? It's like you want to be an Olympic, you want to break all the Olympic records. Maybe your body can't, but you could get close if you practice, right? But you may be limitations, right? Isn't it? Your body can only lift, 120 kgs. You're not going to get a gold medal. but you practice, but that's just what your body can do. So you do your best, you practice sadhana, and you have your conditioning. So you may not get prema tomorrow, but you can't discount that as possible, right? Krishna could come down and say, okay, here it is. And we could pray that way, and we can be open to that. Okay. Kishori Mani says, how is it possible that someone who does not perform his full sadhana, like no chanting all his rounds, not chanting all his rounds, keeps preaching and making new devotees, and sometimes who makes it complete and strict continues to show low qualities and not really understand compassion, caring for others? What a good question. Shorimani, you have 5 hours for my workshop on this? This is such a good question because we all see this and it's bewildering. So Shorimani, I'll tell you a story about this one guy. I think he's from Vancouver. This was from like 1970. He never moved into the temple. He never became a full-time devotee, and he was the #1 devotee maker. He made more devotees than anybody, and he never actually, I don't know if he was doing 16 rounds and 4 principles. I don't know. But I know he never committed to the life of brahmachari, which in those days we all were, and the people making devotees were the people living in the temple, right? He made more devotees. They were all women. That says something about him. Maybe not all women, but most. But I know there are men who have made many female devotees. And they've never really been like ideal examples. So, and then you have the devotee, super strict. And he doesn't make a lot of devotees, or he seems to be grouchy all the time and nobody likes him. And you try to tell him something and he gets nasty, So Kishore Mani is asking why that is. And then we can take it one stage further, which makes this even more bewildering. But my next door neighbor is like the nicest person I've ever met. I wish all the devotees were as nice as my next door neighbor. ISKCON would be so much better. You've gone through that one also, right? Isn't it? Or, or whether it's your Uncle George or your sister or your best friend, somebody, it's like, why can't all the devotees be like my best friend? She's so sweet. She's so kind, so self-sacrificing. Yeah. So I'll tell you a story, which I told you before, which begins to answer this question. Tamal Krishna Maharaj had a disciple. The disciple was a nurse before she became a devotee. And when she died, her old nurse friends came and, describe what she was like. And she would do like 22-hour shifts and like exist on like a piece of bread and a Coca-Cola. Like she just ran her body sick, taking care of other people. That was her nature. She was always like that before she was a devotee, while she was a devotee, right? So when they were celebrating her disappearance, I think it was the same day or the day after, her spiritual master, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, was describing how her friends had described what we saw, that sacrifice we saw as a devotee, that was always there before she was a devotee. And then Maharaj said something. He said, in this life, I will never be as self-sacrificing as her, which is what he's saying is, as a devotee, I'll never be as self-sacrificing as she was before she was a devotee. It's her nature, right? So due to our past activities, we have a nature. And as contained between the lines in Kishore Mani's question is the fact that that nature doesn't die quickly, which is good. If it's a good nature, you don't want it to die, and it wouldn't, it would just grow. But if it's a bad nature, it doesn't die quickly. And so I think it's, Kishore Mani, I think it's a reality. We're just going to have to stare in the face and go, I wish all the devotees were like my best friend, but they're not. And so Mahaprabhu's movement is, it's for everybody. So we're not going to when you come to the door and you go, are you a nice person? Are you selfish? Well, I do get angry and I'm selfish. Get out of here. You can't become a devotee. We don't do that. We invite them in. Chant Hare Krishna will make you better. And then, 3 years later, they do something selfish and then they get angry because they're conditioned souls. So that was Prabhupada's mood, let everybody try and you will become purified eventually. It's just the problem is the eventually part doesn't happen so fast for everybody. So we're just seeing conditioning, very deep conditioning, combined with Mahaprabhu's mercy of accepting anyone without any qualification. The thing that I would say on a practical level is that it is true some people by nature are less conditioned than others. It is true some people by nature are more compassionate, more empathetic, not necessarily because they're more advanced, it's their nature, right? And so that's where it gets confusing, doesn't it? Like he's more advanced than her, but she's more compassionate than him. That's her nature. And his compassion may be exhibited in ways that doesn't look like compassion. That also does happen, right? You have to kind of see through to see, well, he's sincere, or where's he coming from? Maybe he came from a really difficult background, so he's actually doing really well compared to where he came from. I was talking to a devotee, and we were trying to get some help from some devotees in India, and some were very, very helpful, and some were like, and I said, why is it that? And he said, well, the devotees that weren't helpful were from a certain part of India, and that's the part of India where the Muslims terrorized, and said they've just been traumatized by that. And so it's still today, they're like, they're just very careful about trusting people. So, who knows, why is that devotee not trusting? Because maybe he trusted his brother and his brother stole his money. You don't know, right? But Prabhupada always, quoted the verse, if one surrendered to Krishna, that's the main qualification. So that's what Prabhupada told us to look at. Look at how they're surrendered, because that's the real qualification. But having said that, from a practical level, I think it's wise that we be very careful about who we give positions of authority. Because if you're an angry devotee or you're not so compassionate or whatever, as she says, low qualities you see, it might affect your roommate, but when you're the temple president, it affects everybody. So the more you go up as a leader, the more you affect people, right? And then if you become a guru, you're going to be affecting thousands, tens of thousands of people, right? So as we go up, we need to be, I would say, we need to be more careful. And I've been part of discussions about this topic. We need to be more careful about leadership, A new devotee comes in, okay, he's struggling with this or that. But until he overcomes it, we can't make him the temple president, because it'll have a bad effect on many, many devotees. And so out of sanctity to our movement and respect for the devotees, then, we have to be careful in terms of what responsibility we give. That's my opinion. And I think that has played itself out in many ways. That's not really controversial. Oh, Christy says, what about bottling up emotions? Sometimes we might act for a bit too long for our current level of advancement and have adverse effects because of it. We might act, well, when you act, there's a difference, you see, because what I'm describing is not artificial in the sense that it's not like you're repressing, suppressing, trying to be someone you're not, etc. Right? Like, okay, I have to be humble, but I'm not. No, you don't have to be humble. You just act it. And you just work on the action. So it's not artificial. You're not faking it. It's just, well, I'm not humble. Prabhu, you seem so humble. That's because I'm not. I'm trying to act humble. Have you ever seen a devotee like that? And you say, well, you're so this. And he goes, no, I'm not. I have to act that way because I'm so not like that. So it's being honest. It's not, this is just, it's actually being more honest, because when you act that way, you're acting that way because you're acknowledging you're not that way. You're like totally real about what you're not. That's why you act that way. Does that make sense, Chris? Yeah, it's like total connection with the problem. There's no denial. The action is an admittance of the problem. Right? Like, I don't want to be this way, and I'm so much this way, so I go out of my way to act differently.
And when I go out of my way to act differently, it's just reminding me of how I am. It's not causing me to pretend that I'm not like that. It's actually just underscoring that I am like that. Right? You ever see a brahmachari, you talk to him and it's like, as soon as you say, excuse me, Prabhu, and he's like, yeah, I need this and that. It's over there, right? Why is he doing that? Because he's aware that, he's aware you're a woman and he's not. Yeah, that's what he's aware of, right? And that's a problem for him. That's why he does it. If he doesn't have a problem, just go, oh, it's over there. Hare Krishna Mataji, like that, right? If he doesn't have a problem, that's what he does. So you're actually more aware of your problem when you're acting in a way, and you're acting like you don't have the problem. It's because you're aware of the problem. Krishna Karshani says, it seems impossible to not act on anarthas. It seems that we can do it for a while, but they will come out after some time anyway. It needs to go deeper. So you have, number one, strong reasons to do it. Because if you don't have strong reasons to do it, then yeah, like what you say is, yeah, you'll give up on it. The stronger the reasons, the easier it's going to be, and the more you can maintain it. And you have to have some strategy so you can do it. And the reasons and the strategy kind of go together, because the reasons can then produce that Krishna can give you the right attitudes, because your reasons are strong, because Krishna is always giving you guidance. And as I've said before, in my experience, is the more you need the guidance, the more Krishna gives it. So it might seem like I can never overcome this anartha, but once you have good reasons to overcome it, there's some inspiration, then you see, oh, Krishna kicks in, gives you some intelligence. And also the other thing is, well, I have this anartha. So if we go with what you're saying, yeah, it seems like I can only do it temporarily. Then I would suggest, well, look at the consequence of giving into that anartha. So I'll tell you a story. I hope my daughter doesn't mind. We were talking about this morning. Something was happening this morning, my wife. I reminded my wife of this story. When my daughter was 3, we asked her to stop using her pacifier, and she couldn't. And so they went to the dentist, and my wife told the dentist, can you tell my daughter to stop using the pacifier? So the dentist, it was a Chinese dentist, and made a really serious face and said, if you don't stop using the pacifier, you will look like an aardvark. And the dentist showed her what an aardvark looked like. And as she was 3 years old, as soon as she saw the aardvark, she said, that's it, I'm not using this. And she threw it away. Isn't that true? When you clearly understand ramifications. I think the problem is a lot of us are afraid to look at the ramifications because they're ugly, and we rather not, admit them. Because admitting reality is in and of itself often a huge task. And so many of our problems in life are simply because we don't want to admit the problem, because it's ugly and it's depressing and it's embarrassing, isn't it? So if you can admit and say, okay, if I don't do this, I'm an idiot. Just admit to yourself, if I keep acting this way, I'm just an idiot. Only an idiot would do this, year after year after year. I'm just stupid. Let's just admit it, And if I don't give this up, I'm just make my life miserable. People will disrespect me when they find out. You just go down the list. If you have the strength to do that, that can save you. Just go. And it's just like, okay, this is stupid. I should just stop doing this. Now your reason is strong. Then because your reason is strong, you can maintain it. And that's important. Reasons are like everything. In my study of change, reasons and being able to face reality are amongst the most important principles for change. And then the third principle is developing a mentality which naturally makes it easy to change, right? Well, how do I just see that? Like, how do I see this? Every time I see this devotee, I get upset. How do I see him so I don't get upset? You think, well, it's my nature. I just got a big ego. I just criticize people when they do things wrong. It upsets me. So then you think, okay, I have to see that he's actually surrendered devotee, and surrender is the most important principle. All good qualities will eventually come from surrender. I just have to focus on that. And then if you make that shift, the next time you see him, even though you think, oh, there's so-and-so, and then yeah, but he's a devotee, he's nice, and then you're okay. So these things work synergistically, they work together. In any case, do you want to spend your whole life, with this, whatever your anartha is? You want to spend your whole life battling with it? Probably not. There's a lot of energy to put out for no good result. And, do you want to, at your deathbed, still have the anartha and think back and go, oh, what an idiot I am. I carried this my whole life. Is that, that's what you're going to go to your deathbed with, the realization that you're a stupid idiot because you didn't give it up? I don't think you want that, do you? I mean, have you ever thought like that? You're dealing with some stupid anartha and you're thinking, I wonder if I'm going to have this when I die, because if I do, I'll before I die, I'll just kill myself. I won't even be able to live with myself because this is so ridiculous. You ever thought like that? Like, I'm going to carry this to my deathbed. That'll be the most painful thing, because I'll be face to face with the stupidest person in the world, myself, for doing this. You ever thought like that? Well, yeah, it's a good thought. So these are the kinds of consequential, you think of consequences, and then you. Dr. Mai says, what if we don't have the power to act like we don't have the anarthas? Well, I think we answered that question, right? Then, I think actually in the long run, Jyotirmai, it's just going to depress us. It's going to make us really miserable. Don't you think? Like I have this anartha. It's a problem. I'm not doing anything about it. That's going to cause depression after a while, because it's like, how are you going to live with yourself knowing that you have a choice to overcome it, but you're not choosing to do it? And it's always frustrating you. It's not helping you. It's actually pulling you away from Krishna. Like, how long can you live that way without just becoming miserable? So I would question your question. We don't have the power to act. That's not true. It's only true if you believe it. But Krishna gave you the power to act. It doesn't mean that you don't have the anartha. It just means you're not giving into it. Like, if someone abuses a child, what do we think? We think there's something wrong with you. Why did you do that? Like we start putting it all together, right? You just, you ruined a child's life. What were you thinking? It said, isn't it? Especially you women, because of your motherly nature, you feel it even more than the men when a child is abused, right? But the abuser, he's just feeling like, I don't know, I couldn't control myself. That's what he's saying. And all the women are saying, are you crazy? You couldn't control yourself from what you did? And that's how it feels to him. But it doesn't feel that way to anybody else, because everybody else knows. Of course you can. You have a problem. There's something wrong with you. So if we ever say, I don't have the power to act properly, most of the world is acting properly, right? I mean, I hate to say this, ladies, but if men had the chance, they'd be having sex 10 times a day, if that were legal. That's just, you think, oh, women are less intelligent, lower birth. Yeah, well, you can also rejoice that you don't have a body that just is like a nonstop sex machine. That's what it does. It's created, to make children, A lot of times women get married and go, oh, my husband is always talking about sex. And I go, yeah, well, his body's a sex machine, basically. But do men do that? No, they don't do that. They get married to one woman. women don't realize what an austerity it is for a man to marry one woman. It's almost like being brahmachari, because Prabhupada writes about it in Bhagavatam. Krishna does with it. Why does Krishna have so many wives? He's showing that's the nature of men. Why was there polygamy? Because men couldn't control themselves. So all these men that are married with one wife for like 10, 20, 30, 40 years, touch their feet. They're amazing. They're completely going against their nature and they're acting properly. And Sujan's smiling because he knows it's true. 100%. And we can't see Mayapur Chandra's face, but if he shows his face, he's probably laughing. He had to stop driving his car because he's laughing so much. So that's an example. That's an example of it's going on everywhere in the world. The thing that's so important for us to understand, this is not just for devotees. We think, oh, this is for devotional service. Everybody's doing this. Everybody has to do this so that we have a civilized, orderly society. Everybody has to act properly, even if they don't feel like it, Hey, when that poor guy sees you drive up in a BMW, if he could figure out how to steal it, he would. But he just can't figure it out. Or even if he knows, it's like, well, this is wrong. I'd love to have this car, but it's wrong. It's just the way life is, isn't it? And you're walking down the street with your wife and she's beautiful. And some other guy's saying, if I could have her, I would, but that guy looks too tough. He'll beat me up. This is what's going on. No, I'd love to have her, but it's wrong. I'm not going to do it. So it's going on all the time. You get in a position of power, they make you the CEO of a company. Now you can control, manipulate, do whatever you want, but you don't because it's wrong. You curb that desire for power and you become servant leader because that's right. So everybody's doing it all the time, not just devotees. So I think we should acknowledge that, right? Yes. So Christe or somebody, can you save the questions for Friday?
Don't you have a Russian class on Friday?
Yeah, we do, but I don't know what it's about.
Okay.
Anyway, save them for Friday or Monday or something. We'll see. We have 2 Russian classes on Friday. One is on book distribution. It's at 8:00. And the Zoom address will be sent to you. And one is our regular class. I'm not sure what the topic is. Maybe Guru Tattva. Okay, so now we get to chant japa. You are so lucky. You get to chant japa. I have to do a video called Conversations with My Beadbag, right? And your beadbag says, you are so lucky that I'm with you. You are so